Upstairs at Froelich, show 114, reel 1.
Put away those fiery biscuits.
Hey, Freddie. I'm going to take care of your dandruff problem for you.
The Great Charlie Band, the Great Charles Band.
The world's biggest shyster, in my opinion. But what can I say about him? He is influential in the B-movie genre. We have to give credit where credit's due.
I would say even he's influential in the mainstream movie genre because a lot of people that worked with him went on to incredible careers, namely Renny Harlin, who directed Prison, Viggo Mortensen, who was the star of Prison.
Which, when I told you about this movie, you were taken aback by it. You just couldn't believe that, oh my God, this is a Charlie Band-produced film made by Renny Harlin, starring Viggo Mortensen.
And it was quite good, actually. Again, both of these movies, Prison and Ghost Town, very well made. Very well made, probably very, very low budget. One location, as I say, one location wonder. That was true with Prison because he got access to an abandoned prison in Wyoming and just basically built a movie around it. This is how he works. And we were talking about Corman, too. Corman worked this way, too. If he got a location for can you give me this location for 3 days? Great. We'll work out a script very quickly. We'll get some costumes together and we'll just send our people out there and we'll make a movie as quickly as possible for chump change. And he's got people in here. I mean, he's got kind of has names. Viggo wasn't really quite a name yet. I mean, nobody knew who he was at this point. I think Viggo really only had a name after Indian Runner, the Sean Penn movie.
Yeah, because right after this, I think he did Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Ironically, one of the same actors in Prison, whose name I can't remember right now, he was also in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
But I was thinking of Kate Hodge, who was the star of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. She was She-Wolf of London, which is one of my favorite TV shows. Had some good visual effects. It was very gory.
Well, speaking of visual effects, let's talk about those visual effects in Prison because, man, these are really good practical 80s effects in this movie.
Well, I was thinking they reminded me a lot of The Dream Warrior, actually, which was Renny's next film after that. There's a lot of this kind of stuff moving on its own and like the barbed wire sequence, too. I was thinking of Dario Argento a little bit with that one. What is this? This is like a ghost story that takes place inside a prison. You've got, for no real good reason, you have Lane Smith, who was Perry White in The Adventures of Lois and Clark. He is the horrible, of course, corrupt warden of a prison. There all these inmates, among them Viggo, and also the guy from Fletch. Actually, there's this guy from Fletch. I don't know the actor's name, but there was a character in Fletch named Gummy. He's the black guy who's always going, "Don't kill me, man! Don't kill me, man!" Anyway, I don't know his name. I feel bad that I don't. But I was trying to figure out who the hell he was throughout the whole thing until he gets killed. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Gummy from Fletch. Anyway, they decide to move all these inmates into this abandoned prison where something terrible happened a long time ago, back in 1964. And apparently there's this weird, I don't know, I was reminded a little bit of Raiders. I was reminded a little bit of The Keep, things like that.
I can't remember if they ever allude to the fact that the whole point is the guy who was executed in that prison, Lane Smith, apparently had something to do with it. He probably could have stopped it or something like that. They never said that he was an innocent man who got the electric chair. They just said that he was a disgruntled spirit who was bent on revenge against the corrupt warden.
And for some reason they had Viggo playing that inmate as well who died. It's weird because they show the newspaper article and it's Viggo right there. There didn't seem to be any good real reason for him to play the inmate from 1964 as well as the hero character in 1988 when there's no connection between the two characters.
Well, I think they used it for that one scene of exposition where when they have one of the prison blackouts, Viggo Mortensen's trying to wake up his cellmate and he goes, don't kill me, don't get me, you're dead. And then he just puts his glasses like, oh, it's okay, kid. I was just dreaming. Because it turns out that prisoner was shared the same prison back in the day as the guy who got executed.
Now, Renny was kind of known, along with the other directors of those Nightmare on Elm Street sequels, like Jack Shoulder and Chuck Russell, as being incredibly visually oriented filmmakers. Because they would go on and do other things too. Jack Shoulder would go on and do The Hidden, which is a really good movie. And
very good, underrated movie. But unfortunately,
Chuck Russell would do the Blob.
Yep. And don't forget about The Mask.
And The Mask, smoking.
I mean, Jack Shoulder also went on to do the Wishmaster 2, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm Facebook friends with Jack Shoulder. He doesn't really do much on his Facebook page, but I guess he appreciates its fans. For this and as well for Ghost Town, they kind of have two things in common: low budget, one location, and they both look good. They both look great. Good production values on both movies. Prison is probably the better one of the two because I think it has more of a focus. And also, I mean, I feel like this has been ripped off in a couple of things. There was an X-Files episode called The Walk, I believe, that also had to do with a dead prisoner taking revenge in a prison. And also, Bronwyn informs me there was a Supernatural episode as well that kind of rips off this plot in the same way.
One of the ones I go back to, I'm not going to say that Prison ripped this off, but it's, you remember Amazing Stories? There was an episode called Life on Death Row with Patrick Swayze.
Life on Death Row with Patrick. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it seemed like that one had some supernatural elements to it, and I think Prison may have borrowed a couple of those supernatural elements, but there was no horror aspect to that Life on Death Row story. But that was one of my favorite episodes of Amazing Stories.
I did. I watched a lot of Amazing Stories. I have the collection actually, and I do look back on it on occasion. A very well made show, probably very expensive though too, and that's why
it got canceled, because it was too expensive to make.
Here we have like scruffy young Viggo Mortensen, and my wife loves Viggo, so she sat with me to watch this, and she remembered actually renting it too. She rented it when she was, wanted to see all of his movies. She rented every one of the smaller movies that he was in because they were all available on video. And Empire always had a good exposure, good access to Empire titles on video. Same as Full Moon. You could always find them in any store.
Well, yeah, because most of the Empire stuff was released, most of it anyway, was released on the Vestron label back in the day. But then the two later ones we're talking about were picked up by New World for distribution on home video. So
I had a question. Why does the Ghost kill guards and prisoners alike? It doesn't seem to be very discriminatory when it comes to executing its revenge, and it just kills a bunch of prisoners in addition to a bunch of guards.
Right. That's my whole... if I had a gripe about this movie, or a plot hole, so to speak, that would be it. It's because why are you picking people at random to kill?
If I were rewriting the script, I would place the focus more on the warden. I would want the warden to constantly be surviving attempts at killing him.
Or at the very least, okay, one of the guards gets knocked off in this movie. Maybe they should have concentrated more on killing the guards than other prisoners.
Yeah. Now, the only other weak link for me is Chelsea Field. She's the only lady in the cast. I can't even believe they put a lady in this, but she has to be the computer genius or whatever. She has to be the one at the keys and doing her research about prison therapy and prison psychology and all that stuff. But her performance and her, her being in the movie, I thought were weak. But I was genuinely shocked at how well this movie was made. It doesn't remind me of the early Empire pictures like the next movie will, but we have like a Meridian style situation where Band had access to the abandoned prison in Wyoming, got a script together and shot it. It did get a release in theaters, a very limited release, but it was more likely it was just intended for a direct-to-video release.
Yeah, it was this very, very small company called Eden Pictures picked it up just to distribute it, because I think Empire had already gone under at this point, and then it got a very small run, and then it went straight to video, but then it became like a big hit on video. But that was the weird thing. It never came out on Blu-ray until like 2014. It had completely skipped over on its DVD release. It got a DVD release overseas, I believe, in Germany, but it never came out in the States.
Well, it looks really good. I mean, it really looks good in HD. Gotta say.
Oh, it looks amazing in HD. MGM gave them a really good print to work with. I think it's still gettable. You can still get the movie on Blu-ray. It's out of print though. But it's like not out of print to the point where it's like stupid expensive. I think on the low end it's going to be like $15. On the high end with the slipcover it's going to be like $35 or $40.
Charles Band doesn't have any. He doesn't really have any pull with his Empire Pictures, right?
No, he has absolutely no pull. Like Well, here's the thing: MGM, with the exception of a couple of titles, has pretty much the bulk of the rights to the Empire Pictures library. So they pretty much lease that stuff out to Shout Factory, and Shout Factory releases everything. Pretty much almost every Empire movie almost, is on Blu-ray or DVD.
So just a little bit about Renny Harlin. I like Renny Harlin as a director. I think he's a great director. He's got this kind of like, I don't know, he's a really tall, kind of, good-looking blonde-haired guy. He's got this Nordic Aryan thing going on, right? He would direct the Nightmare on Elm Street movie. He would direct Adventures of Ford Fairlane, which is an underrated masterpiece in my opinion.
That is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time, sir.
And Die Hard 2, and both of those would be released like in the same week or something, one week after another, right?
Well, yeah, you know the story behind that, right? Why he got Die Hard 2? It was because he got Ford Fairlane first. He got Ford Fairlane right after Nightmare on Elm Street 4. And the executives at 20th Century Fox were so impressed with the dailies that they decided to give him Die Hard 2.
That's weird.
And lucky enough that happened, because after Ford Fairlane was a total flop, Die Hard 2 pretty much put him right back on track. And then he made I want to say right after that, he did Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger, great movie, love it.
Yeah, he did that right after that.
I used to do a Michael Rooker impersonation from that, where he kills Grandpa Walton, the guy. I forget who's the bad guy in that. Michael Caine?
No, John Lithgow.
John Lithgow. Sorry, Michael Caine. I'm thinking about On Deadly Ground, right?
Yes.
Michael Caine. Or I'm sorry. John Lithgow is the bad guy. He shoots Ralph Waite. And Michael Rooker, with his gritted teeth, goes, "This man never hurt anybody," because he's got this insane look on his face when he says it.
But unfortunately, Renny did go on to make one of the biggest box office disasters of all time.
He went on to marry one of the biggest box office disasters, Gina Davis. But he did Cutthroat Island, which I didn't think was terrible. I just thought it was kind of standard. It was, you know what Cutthroat Island was? It was sort of like a dry run for what's happening now, which is to take any movie and just put a female in the lead. We're seeing this now with the new. We're gonna have like apparently a black lesbian 007 or something like that. We're gonna have we had that Charlize Theron movie, Atomic Blonde, where she beats someone to death with her pump. But it's like they tried to like spin it a little bit, but the thing is, it wasn't really political back then. Now everything's so damn political that you got to do that. But I actually enjoyed it. But the thing is, it would have been I think Matthew Modine being in it made it not as good, because Michael Douglas was
supposed to be in it, and some shit happened and he couldn't do it, and then they got.
Or he looked at the script and said, "There's nothing here for me to do. You've got me as a second banana to Gina, and I'm Michael Douglas, bitch."
It was his own excuse to give his wife. I mean, dude, a lot of good directors gave their wives movie roles. I mean, look at John Derek. Look what he did with Bo Derek. I mean, it happens.
Well, he also did Long Kiss Goodnight, which I saw in the theater, and I really did enjoy.
That's a great fucking movie, right?
I like that movie a lot. I thought it was very well made.
Then he did Deep Blue Sea, which is another great fucking movie.
Deep Blue Sea, my only other favorite shark movie, I would say.
But then his career took a downspin again. He did fucking Driven.
Let's move on to Ghost Town. Just watched this either last night or the night before. Now, Ghost Town is sort of an episode. It's like I can't figure it out. The best way I can describe it, this feels just like a padded out Twilight Zone episode to me. Yeah, definitely. Like a TV show. The movie reminds me of old school Empire movies. It reminds me of Parasite. It reminds me of Laserblast and The Daytime Ended. Sort of another one location wonder, just out in the desert and dirt and quick costume changes. And the hero of this is Franc Luz, who I saw before in a Star Trek Next Generation episode called The Host, where he played the first Trill symbiont-joined species that we see, and he falls in love with Dr. Beverly Crusher. He's also in a lot of soap operas. I remember my wife, when she saw that episode, she was like, "I've seen this guy," because she's like a soap opera fan, so she can spot these people in a second. And he was like on a couple of soap operas for years, and you can kind of tell between him and the pretty blonde thing in the movie, what's her name? Catherine Hickland. Longtime soap opera actors. And their acting is very soap opera-ish in the movie, even though they're kind of dealing with a horror movie kind of a scenario here.
Yeah, the acting is a little over the top, but then the main bad guy, God, he's way over the damn top.
Yeah, I forget his name again. Jimmy Skaggs?
Yeah, Jimmy Skaggs.
Jimmy Skaggs plays Devlin, right? Mm-hmm. The bad guy. Okay, well, just quickly, the story is that Catherine Hickland, is driving in her car. It stops. She gets sucked into this weird alternate universe that is a ghost town from the past. Franc Luz is a deputy. Sheriff's deputy. And he's called to go check out what the hell's going on. He gets sucked into that alternate universe as well. which is, and Empire pictures were always about alternate universes, weird things, people getting sucked into them and all that stuff. It's just that the visual effects here look a lot better than those earlier films. Those earlier films look like, I don't know, really kind of cheesy visual effects, but this one looks pretty damn good, actually.
Yeah, you had those old matte paintings back then, visual effects weren't so refined. You were doing shit on the cheap, but then these movies were probably done with higher budgets, so they had better effects houses to work with. Going back to prison just for a second, okay, you had John Carl Buechler doing the effects on that movie. And John Carl Buechler at the time, he was your go-to guy if you wanted a good splatter movie, So I'm willing to bet some of those same effects guys were working on Ghost Town at the same time.
John Carl directed Friday the 13th Part 7, right?
Yep, and Ghoulies.
And Ghoulies. Ooh. So you got this no-nonsense shit-kicker deputy sent out by a sheriff to find the owner of the abandoned car. So Catherine Hickland is interesting. I was looking up her Wikipedia. She was married to David Hasselhoff, right?
Really?
She divorced him and then married an actor named Michael Knight. Isn't that weird?
That is fucked up. How are you going to do that?
Michael Knight, if anybody knows, was in a movie called Date with an Angel. And he was a soap opera actor also. Isn't that bizarre?
That's messed up.
Married an actor named Michael Knight.
Wow. Next thing you know, they had a kid named Kit.
Yes, Kit Knight. So I did want to say that I enjoyed the music. I thought the score by Harvey Cohen was really good. It's evocative of Penderecki's Polymorphia piece used in The Shining, directed by Stanley Kubrick.
You see, one thing about this movie that struck me, you watch as many Empire Pictures movies as we do, you get to know some of the names of people who've worked on them in the past. Now, a lot of these screenwriters I had never heard of, actors I'd never heard of, the only name that came to mind was David Schmoller. He later, he worked with Charlie a lot in the past, but then he went on to do a lot of stuff with Full Moon. A lot of stuff. See, so I guess that's one of the reasons why I didn't enjoy this movie so much. It's because, yes, it's an Empire Pictures movie, but it really didn't feel like one to me because there wasn't all that talent behind the camera that I'm so used to. Oh, the other, I totally fucked up. The other name was Mac Ahlberg. He was the DP on this.
Wasn't he the DP on Prison as well?
Yes, he was. Yeah. He was also the DP on Prison. So the movies are shot very similarly.
They're shot very well, actually.
Yeah, shot very well.
And I know Mac Ahlberg is credited with Meridian, but for Christ's sake, I can see this movie. I can see both movies. They look great.
Dude, this movie looks great, but I don't know. I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't hate it. Okay, this is not Meridian level hate or Boxing Helena level hate. It was a decent movie, but it's not a movie I'd gravitate towards again. Yeah,
I'm kind of glad. I'm glad I watched it. It was just kind of like, it was perfunctory. You know why? Probably because this was the last days of Empire. They had a few projects they needed to finish up.
And I checked the Wikipedia on this movie. This was literally the last Empire Pictures film that was ever released theatrically. I think it got on maybe 10 screens, I think they said it was. It got released on 10 screens.
But, 10 screens is better than none, really. I can't believe that these movies would not, the thing about it is, I wish movies with good production value could be made on small budgets these days. But HD has made everything look cheap. This is if Charles Band and Empire or even Full Moon were doing what they were doing back then, but doing it today, they'd be doing it with HD, and it wouldn't look as good. It really, honestly, would not look as good.
Well, the best way I can equate it to you is this: you know how they say videotape killed the porn industry? HD is killing the horror movie industry.
Yeah, I would say so too. I would probably agree with that. There's problems. I've always wanted to work with film, and I did get a couple of opportunities to work with film. But now that everything is HD, they're doing everything they can to cut costs because they've got a good system with getting visual effects together, and they think they're doing really well with being able to make the movie look as film-like as possible with computers now. But all you have to do is just sort of, you pop in your Blu-ray, if you have it, your Blu-ray of Last Jedi, and compare it to your Blu-ray of Empire Strikes Back. It's worlds apart. It's Last Jedi almost looks like a soap opera, and I even take off the edge smoothing so I don't have to get that soap opera look, but it still looks that way. It just doesn't look as good. It's not vibrant. It's not very colorful. A movie like Ghost Town is far more colorful to me.
It's like audiophiles who prefer to listen to vinyl over CDs. Like they try to say, and I will agree with them, vinyl does have a much more fuller sound to it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think movies that are shot on film, just have a more vibrant look to them.
Did you ever look at? Oh God, what was that? There was a movie from. I don't know if it was Mario Bava's Black Sabbath or something. I don't know if that was shot in color. There was a movie. Yeah, or maybe I was thinking of Sunday Bloody Sunday. I'm not really sure. Beautiful, beautiful the way these movies were put together. The color.
Suspiria in 4K, man. Oh my God, how that looks on Blu-ray, remastered and restored in 4K. That was because that was the last Technicolor film ever made in Italy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it shows. It is a very colorful, very vibrant film with a great.
Well, in Italian, it was Tecnicia Colora. It was like that.
So back to Ghost Town. I think we've set it up. Final thoughts?
Final thoughts? Just kind of like it's kind of like a case of who gives a fuck, really.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you want to see Empire Pictures go
it's
out with
competent. It doesn't have terrible acting. You got a really good bad guy in there. Franc tries his hardest, but it's really just it's kind of boring. It's kind of boring.
Well, like I was going to say, if you want to see Empire Pictures go out with a thud, then watch Ghost Town.
Okay, welcome back to another installment of the Warner Home Video Classic Clamshell segment of this episode. In honor of Monty Python's 40th anniversary, it was released the second week of August, 1979. I dug out my Warner clamshell of Monty Python's Life of Brian, directed by Terry Jones, and written by the troupe of Monty Python, starring Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Terry Gilliam, Eric Idle, Terry Jones, and Michael Palin. Produced by George Harrison's Handmade Films Company, because no one else would produce it. I guess EMI got really testy about the idea of mocking the story of Jesus, even though this really isn't about Jesus. It's about a guy who is mistaken for a Messiah, because back then they had plenty of them. You had John the Baptist, you had Elijah, and all that. Can you turn it around so we can see the essay? Get ready for the gospel, according to Monty Python. Nice essay here. Can you open it up? This is a good one because you have an American release. Now, the first time I ever saw this movie was in this clamshell. We rented it, and I didn't like it. I did not like this movie, mainly because it's a pan and scan, but it's not really a pan, or there's really not any panning going on. So it cuts off nearly 3/4 of the image, so you can't see certain key scenes, namely that stoning scene with John Cleese. Okay, now for comparison, let's see the Blu-ray. This is a Blu-ray that my wife picked up at Best Buy for $5.99. It is the movie completely restored for HD, and this isn't even opened yet. The packaging is still on it. I'm not going to open it for you people because you're not worth it. But I did look at it on, I believe it, I forget where it was, but I watched a Blu-ray version of this movie, or rather in high definition, and it completely changed the way the movie looked. It looked incredible. It's kind of like what the HD transfer of Legend did for that movie. It gave it a completely different visual spectrum. Can you turn it over? And this has like a whole bunch of extras on it, commentary and everything. And for some reason it was in the budget bin at Best Buy. It's really unusual. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and please, if you haven't seen the movie, please give it a shot and try to watch it in the high def. Don't look at it on the Warner clamshell. I only have it in the Warner clamshell because I love Warner clamshells. Thanks for watching.